Hello and welcome to StarCraft 2. I'm your host, Saint Apoc, and here in the bottom right corner we have the red Terran Frith, and in the top left, myself, Saint Apoc, and the blue Terran. And you can see both of us here pretty much going for the supply depot at nearly the exact same time. This video is going to be an analysis of what happens when you transition from one tech to another, and in particular in the TvT matchup, and what you can do to take advantage of your opponent's army composition. So yeah, if you look at the production tab, it looks like I'm going for my barracks first, and then the refinery. I think our partner over here went for the refinery first and then the barracks. Not terribly different, but I think that the refinery first is going to allow him to get gas just a hair earlier. Yeah. The way that I'm doing this is basically it's a vibes build. I talk about him in my other videos pretty frequently, and the usefulness of vibes is production, is macroing, getting a lot of workers in a short amount of time to be able to uphold the production that you're doing, and in turn, having lots of workers producing lots of units means your army is going to be quite significant and be able to overpower the enemies a lot more readily, and in turn can sometimes mean that even with micromanagement, your enemy cannot maintain the battle because they just don't have the resources and don't have the production. But anyway, so we're going to we're doing this factory switch right over here, and you can see his Reaper comes out. That's exactly why he went for that gas first, so that he can have enough gas to send out a Reaper as soon as the barracks is complete. So he's now harassing me, to which I basically don't respond at all. I do, however, have my Marine up here sitting waiting, and he does some poor micro management of this Reaper here, and so he does lose it when he could have gotten a lot more out of it. So overall, let's see. He actually ended up losing 50 gas out on that one, so it's not terribly a big deal this early in the game, I don't think. But his Reaper harass was unsuccessful, and having seen what I've got going on, now he's struggling to, well, in my opinion anyway, struggling to catch up. Although he does have his expansion coming out ahead of mine, and he's not only that, he's ahead in workers and in army supply. So this is just probably because of the way that my build order works out, and also my struggle to stay on top of building workers constantly, and building army supply. So he already has a lot of Marines out here, a siege tank. Sorry, not a lot of Marines. He's got a couple of them. He's already got a second orbital command, so his economy is doing slightly better than mine. I'm just now starting my orbital command and the refinery over here. But what I do have is a second tank to defend with. Not that he's coming out and hitting me already, but you can see that going for that defensive tank, churning out those defensive tanks first, does impact the way that my economy is producing now. I do have a third command center, to which he does not. He is not even building another one yet. So in the very least, it seems like without a harassment, which he is coming out to harass, but without harassment, I will be getting ahead here. So Frith comes out with these 2 Hellions, checking that third expansion area, and he does lose both of them to the 3 siege tanks I've got sitting over here. 4th one on the way, and that's usually where I stop before I begin to build Thors. I got an army out already to do so, and just starting to get a handle on my economy over here. Now, my opponent does have a he's got a little bit of a larger army supply here. He already has a medevac so that he can heal his Marines if they get attacked here, and of course, if he ever chose to make these into Hellbats, he could heal them too. However, it would appear that he is going for more production buildings on 2 bases, which, if you do not have, I don't think that you can go for this many production buildings at this point without having at least a third base to support it. And he's still sitting here with his Hellions inside the medevac. Not sure why they're in there. He's building up turrets. Doesn't know what I have, yet he's building up turrets. I mean, this is standard. Probably expects that if he's going to be dropping stuff, I could be dropping stuff. Or Banshee harassing, so, you know. That makes sense. I'm just now getting my engineering bay out to build turrets. So let's see what he's got going on here. Going to drop with this medevac. And you can see at this point I've surpassed him in workers, and therefore surpassed him in resource production, or resource harvesting rather. My minerals are coming in a little bit better than him. So he drops these 4 Hellions, all of which just immediately die. Let's look at the losses here. He's behind again in resources because he lost that gas in the beginning, and then also 400 minerals lost to that attack. I've still got my workers here, so you know I can understand what he's trying to do with harassment here, but you know the siege tanks in these positions, which he saw earlier. You know, obviously, oh, well, I guess I can't run through the entrance, let me go through the back door and drop here. He should have dropped all the way up here. In fact, he could have come on this side. You know, it would have been 1 Marine, and he could have done a little bit more damage over here before getting taken out. Regardless, as you can see, still way ahead in workers now, despite him having gone for that fast expand. To build up his army. He does have a little bit more army than I do. You can see with these Thors he's got. Now he's got a Raven and a Liberator. He's got some decent unit composition to deal effectively with any sort of different things that I come out with, and especially ground army is going to suffer trying to fight against him here with all those siege tanks. However, I'm not really interested actually in I'm not really interested in this first army. My first army in this particular matchup is usually a throwaway. I build them up in their upgrades and everything, but it's usually for the purpose of going for battle cruisers. And so you can see I'm taking my 4th expansion here, or 4th base. He's just now getting his 3rd. And so what I like to do is I build up an army in the manner of vibes, going for that mech army. And you can see I'm even building up more production buildings to get them out. I don't quite have 200 supply by the 10-minute mark, but very, very soon I will. And so and actually in this game I kind of messed up. My intention was to build up armor and weapons for the ground army, and it was not intentional, but I ended up going for ship weapons here, which, you know, that's in part the reason why I decided to go battle cruisers anyways, because I'm like, well, I got the upgrades, I guess I gotta commit. And I often find in TvT matchups that going against the tanks with straight up Firebats and Thors is just not successful by any means. Even when I can replenish that army, the tanks just do so much damage. So I find that I can take advantage of the fact that my opponent doesn't think the same way as I do, and often doesn't have the starport production that I will have by the time I need to replenish my army. So a little oversaturated over here, and not even touching the gas, which would be nice to have that extra gas income at this point. But you can see I've got 86 workers here, and I've got about a third more, or I guess 50%. Yeah, I've got anyway about 50% more income than he does in terms of mineral production here. Now he does scan this and sees that there's no army in that area, and usually what I like to do when I see that my enemy has scanned my base in a TvT matchup, I like to respond to scanning by putting my army in a forward position, or usually I'll put them in a position where, you know, if they scan this extra base over here, I might send my army up to that area, because I know that he knows that there's nothing there. So going now for my 5th expansion, he is still operating on 3 base here. He's got a lot of producing buildings here, but I personally feel not the economy to support it. And you can see I'm starting to build up a bank here because I've maxed supply. He's maxed supply as well, but he's using his resources in the way that he should, building up more buildings. And I kind of screw myself on that, not building planetary fortresses or extra turrets or even more supply depots. As a buffer for when he kills my supply depots. I am, however, building all of these starports because it's somewhere around now, or just earlier than now, that I realized that I accidentally went for ship weapons instead of vehicle weapons, and you can see I'm trying to catch up with vehicle by starting them off to support this army. What I should have done is just canceled that and forgotten about it, because you know, at this point, this army is no good. And, you know, trying to engage them here on this this front over here with all of the siege tanks, not a good idea. So I do pull these guys back and try to sit them up here. He just now gets his 4th expansion, and you know, I'm pulling my army up here and pulling them just outside of the radius of his sensor tower. But in my mind, I know that he's got a lot of Thors and a lot of siege tanks, and he has not lost them. So I have the opportunity to build up more starports, just like I'm doing here, and start getting battle cruisers out. Once I get a nice bank of gas and minerals, I'm absolutely free to start building those the moment that I throw my army away. And now it takes, I think, somewhere around a minute to build any given battle cruiser. So I really have to bank on his counter to take a while before I have some battle cruisers to defend. But taking out the orbital command and now his planetary fortress, he doesn't quite have the positioning here to deal with me at least attacking that. I should be pulling them back, because now they're walking right into siege tank fire. Yep. So pulling these guys back now, and starting up battlecruiser production since I've lost half my army. And as soon as I lose. Oh, I'm not starting it up. I'm building tech labs, but I should be starting pretty soon. Anyway, as soon as I lose the other half of my army, I will then begin to build supply that loss of supply with battlecruisers. I really should be starting a lot sooner here. I have the minerals and gas to do so. Don't know what's taking me so long. Got another command center here that I can expand with. This is just now getting some SCVs out. Still a little oversaturated on all my bases. I could have taken care of that a little bit better. Every single base has got too many workers on it. But yeah, where are them battlecruisers? Oh, that's right. I didn't get the fusion core. Yeah, okay. So what happened was I threw away half of my army. I'm going to fight to build battlecruisers. I'm like, what the hell's going on here? Why are they? Oh, I need to build a fusion core. So yes, that would be why they are delayed, because I forgot to build the fusion core. So I intended on tech switching and yet forgot that I needed certain buildings in order to do so. Anyway, continuing to build out some of these Hellbats while I have minerals to defend, sort of. I'm gonna pull them up here now back at the middle, and transferring SCVs over here to continue my my economy, which is way higher than his is. And you can see, what is he doing over here? He's got an extra command center that's not moving. Hasn't taken another base yet. He has taken this one way up here, but he did kind of misclick and turned it into a planetary fortress, which kind of sucks for him, but you know, I guess it's not that big a deal. I do think he's going to lose out ever so slightly. Taking out that Liberator, walking right now into siege tank fire because I definitely want to get rid of all this army, and I lose it all. And now he's probably thinking, okay, this guy's got nothing, so he's going to walk his army out. However, in the meantime, I do have the battlecruisers to deal with this. Perhaps not head-on, but I do know that in a base trade situation, I'm going to win because I have the mobility. Thors are just too damn slow, and you know, fighting them head-on would certainly mean defeat, but I can teleport anywhere on the map without vision. And he's going to be too focused on saving his own base to deal with me lifting off any sort of buildings to get out of the way. And so, seeing this, I start to pull my battlecruisers up into a corner. I let him. This is, by the way, I'm not in any way suggesting that this is the way that you should be dealing with your opponent. Base trading can be very risky. However, I do believe that I have the upper hand just for the fact that I have the battlecruisers, and I believe I even have the upgrades to deal with this. So he takes out this base, and doesn't exactly see these quite yet, but he is slow to make them do more stuff. Okay, here they go. He's going to attack these now. I'm trying to squeeze out every last mineral that I can out of this base before I lose it, and especially gas. And you know, it's at this point that I'm really trying to get every single battlecruiser that I can before moving out. Got a lot coming out over here, and in fact, if we look at the units, I've already got 15 battlecruisers, which is quite a bit, and still producing more. So I'm going to wait until he moves out into his army to kill my main before I send out this, yeah, there they go. So he moved out, and now I'm sending my battlecruisers in to wipe away and delete everything he's got here. And I'm going to first go for his starports. Not going to shoot them directly, but I am going to hover over them and destroy them because I do not want any Vikings or Ravens to counter this. Ravens will hit the armor very hard, and Vikings will Vikings will shoot them down a little bit more effectively too. Not that he has any other starports to build Vikings. In fact, that's it for his production. He is done, and there is nothing he can do about this. So, gonna move my army out here and just delete everything in sight. And now with his Thors and siege tanks, he really doesn't have the mobility to deal with this. So he's going to try to base trade with me. But the problem is I've just sent out even more battle cruisers. This is now 23 battle cruisers that he has to deal with. And you know, he's got nothing. I move my command center into the top right position here because he's not going to be thinking about how to kill every last one of my buildings once he realizes how much I have here. And I could have started producing a little bit more. I was mainly focused on my battle cruisers because in a base trade, I want to squeeze out all of the damage that I can. I'm not thinking about building up my buildings. You know, I'm taking a chance leaving one command center in the corner. And I actually should have lifted this one off and put it in the corner too. But I don't even know where the hell his Vikings are. I don't know where they went. I'm sure that he had some before, but they're all gone. And now it's just a matter of time before I erase everything that's over here. I don't know if you saw earlier, but he did respond to my battlecruisers by building not one but 2 engineering bays, and then really ramping up those turrets. But you know, they're just not. They're not going to be able to deal with this. These things hit way too quickly. They don't do a whole lot of damage per shot, but they do a massive amount of damage over time because of all of those shots hitting. So you can see all of those turrets just get turned into Swiss cheese, and that's basically it for our Terran player over here. And so you can see the advantage of actually allowing your opponent to keep their army, because by keeping their army, they cannot tech switch. They cannot build more units. So that ends in victory for me. And we're going to see a second example of this, and it's actually the immediate game afterwards that, you know, effectively it's the same thing. Going now against the Terran player, Terran You Up. I actually I admire this name, and I really thought I was going to lose this just because, you know, if you got a ballsy name like that, you must have some skill to back it up. But you can see now I'm spawning in the bottom left here as the red Terran, him in the top right is the blue Terran. So swap of colors here, different player though. And our production is, again, nearly identical. You know, Terran builds are pretty much the, have similar openings. He does, however, decide to get the supply depot at the same time that I do, yet in a less advantageous position. So he is, I think, a little bit late on getting that up. However, actually, yeah, so he's late on getting that, but he does get the barracks nearly at the exact same time. So let's see. No, he's still behind on it. Never mind. He's behind on the barracks. But anyway, regardless, he is going to take one SCV out to do some scouting. He sees that I do not have any proxy buildings out yet. So he's going, and of course he's going to scout all of his bases. I don't really think this is all that necessary. I think that you should focus on building defensive units and actually on your economy. And I think one SCV makes up a significant amount of minerals. Although in his defense, I do have a second SCV building up a supply depot just to wall off, because, you know, if he's going to start squeezing out Marines and sending them over here, I want to defend something with. Or if he's, you know, I just don't want any access to my base. I will say that for the most part, this does seem to be a little bit unnecessary in a TvT, because, you know, it's not like he's got melee units that can rush in here. And, you know, I guess he can squeeze a hair worth of time by building closer to his base, although honestly you would want to build right here, I would think. But anyway, What this really does is it allows for scouting to be denied, so he can't really see what would be going on over here without having first being able to get past that supply depot. However, let's see, this is his view, yes. So, however, what I do notice is he is still able to see at least, so if I pause the game here, he is still able to see that there's a factory, able to see that there's some building here. I don't think he selected it, but he's seeing that there is some production over here and that I have a tech lab. So really, walling off like this, I don't know that it actually did all that much for me. And then, of course, I lift off at the most inopportune time, so he's able to, even if he couldn't see, he's now able to see what's going on back here. Having seen that factory, he definitely knows that I have taken gas, and want to use that to build something up. However, he saw a tech lab and me switching to a tech lab, so I'm definitely not going Hellions. I'm going to be going siege tanks is the most logical choice, seeing that so early on. So he's just now finishing his factory, and he's going to send some Marines up here to defend against Reapers. For what reason, I have no idea. Maybe Banshees also, but again, I did switch over to the tech lab here, so getting Banshees out is not a threat currently because I'm not rushing them out. Going to defend the high ground up here, and pushing out another siege tank. I think I was supply blocked for a second there. Which is an issue on my part. I am pumping out a lot of SCVs. I am ahead of SCVs by one over here, but behind in supply, which seems to be the case in most of the games that I play, at least early on in the game. But right now building off my third command center, and he is just now getting his orbital command down there, and so we're about even on workers. Still got these Marines over here, so I think the value of his army supply, although it is ahead, the value is a little bit less because of me having my siege tanks. He does have one out. I should have, I have a second one here to defend all of this area with, and I'm going to be continuously pumping out those SCVs. He is actually ahead in SCVs right now, since he was able to get that orbital command out just a hair ahead of me. I am, however, finishing my third base, which will allow me to get ahead in production. I've got an engineering base. I'm going to start building turrets at some point here. My armory is out, and that basically means that once my last siege tank is out, this is my third, my fourth is coming out, and then I will begin to build Thors. And usually what I like to do is I like to go for Thors on 2 or 3 factories, and then Hellbats on another. However, it may be more advantageous to go for Hellbats first. Not only because they can be Hellions and get some good mobility across the map and take out things. I mean, obviously I can't do it here. He's got some good defense over here. But also if he decides to attack, I think it'll deal with those Marines a little bit more effectively, because he can stand away from the siege tanks as soon as he sees the first hit. Whereas the Hellbats can come in and clean that up, even as Hellions. So he scans this and sees that I've got some defensive stuff going on over here, and basically just continues to build up production. He's turtling just like I am. He may or may not be familiar with Vibe's build. He does not seem to be going with a whole lot of Thors. In fact, he's not doing that at all. He's going for siege tanks. Doesn't have an armory yet, which I do, which means I can build those. As you can see, I've got my first Thor coming out here at 6 minutes in the game. This is about when I should be scanning, but I'm going for economy, so I'm dropping mules here down at this point. And now I'm pretty fully saturated on my second base. He is not, so I am way ahead. Yeah, you can see I'm way ahead in workers. My economy is booming a little bit more than his, even with the gas as well. and at this point, it's when I would consider myself to be pulling ahead, at least in resources. His army is pretty significant because he's splitting up his focus between economy and army. So he's got a decent force now. With these Marines here, he really can just pull these guys off. I don't know why they're there. Maybe to defend against drops, I'm not sure. But he really can pull those off right now and send them down here. Really, in my opinion, he should have static defense like turrets over here and turrets over here. He's only got one. I usually like to go for two. Two turrets at every base. I've got one over here and one down here, one over here, etc. You get the picture. So going now for my fourth base. He's still operating on two, just now getting his third, and so even though he's ahead in army, he's not moving out. He's not trying to hit me right now. So really, he's just trying to get to the 200 mark before I do. And as you'll see, my 20 workers accounts for my being ahead in supply. So even though I don't quite have, this many siege, well, I do have exactly that many siege tanks, but they're not for the purpose of moving out. He does scan this, and unfortunately, I don't respond appropriately. I'm thinking, he's scanning, but he's not going to really move out. Big mistake. I've only got a couple of Thors here and some Hellbats to defend with, and they're blocked by these stupid mineral patches. This is the first game in my entire career that I do end up going out and harvesting those to get them out of the way. But as you can see, he scans, sees nothing here, so he's just going to move out leisurely to take out this base. And yeah, so pauses for a second. For actually a while, it seems. Honestly, in my opinion, I think he's wasting scans. He should be working on economy. I do understand why he's doing that, because he doesn't want to lose army. But he comes in here and sees it's undefended and just immediately hits everything. And I respond pretty late. I'm like, should I save my orbital? Should I leave it? Whatever. I try to save it. It goes down. I'm like, there's too many Marines here. There's nothing I could have done. And with honestly, with all of this, even trying to get those workers out of there, they would have lost. But you can see, even losing those, I'm now at about even with the amount of workers that he has, and my army supply is now up to being even. So so that attack didn't actually, it wasn't putting me behind. It was making me even with him. So it's it would be successful and in a way necessary, but he really should be building more bases. And you can see I'm actually pretty slow to respond to this. I really should have another command center ready to fill that spot. I've got starports coming out now because my intention is to tech switch, and I do have army upgrades for my ground units coming out instead of air. I mean, vehicle plating is for both. But I really want my first army to have an impact over my enemy in the early to mid game before tech switching, because if they're, it is a throwaway army, but if they are too weak, then it's going to do little to slow down the advance of the enemy, and I won't be able to have battle cruisers in time. And honestly, right now, I should have more starports than this, because I have the gas income. I mean, I don't quite have a bank quite yet, and actually, I should have retaken this base as soon as it was destroyed. I do slack here, like building up workers decently, but I'm slacking in building up command centers, and it really does come to hurt me later in the game, because unlike any game before, I never build up that bank. I'm always spending my resources, and while you're supposed to be effectively spending your resources, look, you can see these guys coming around here to meet this army. Even though you're supposed to be spending your resources as they come in, it really helps to have a bank for building battlecruisers because they're just so gas and mineral heavy that the moment that I lose an army, I would not be able to resupply my army with battlecruisers without having a bank. So I kind of just let this army sit here for a while as I start working on my production for battlecruisers. I do have a fusion core out. Let's look at the upgrades. I do not yet have the Yamato retrofit. Oh, there it goes. Yep, starting to build now. And actually, let's see. I am ahead of him in ground weapons and ground plating for mech army. So even though he's got all of these tanks and really, oh well, it's okay. 5 tanks. I thought there'd be more than that. Where's the? Oh yeah, here they are. So he does have a pretty decent army. Mine, however, is ahead in army supply. You can see. I've just got a lot of Thors here. A lot of Thors. They should all be turning into this high impact load, but I kind of neglect to do that. And so really the only way he's going to be able to defeat my army is by having these in siege mode first. He needs to have better positioning on me in order to attack me. And he can do so by switching between which siege tanks are in siege mode and which are moving, and then also using his Marines as sort of a buffer to prevent my army from walking forward. Because if they walk forward, they're going to get hit by the Marines, and if they stay put, they're going to be distracted by the Marines and get hit by the siege tanks. So really, this is a decent army composition for dealing with mass Thors. But having Marines, while they are very great at single or small armies worth of battlecruisers, they are not great against a full tab of battlecruisers, which is always my intention immediately after throwing away an army. So I've got these guys here. I noticed that he scanned over here, so I got these guys here to defend as soon as he comes down over here with them. Building up more starports. I accidentally built one on this reactor that I had from the factory, but that's okay because I can start building battlecruisers as soon as my army, which is at its full capacity, as soon as that gets hit, I can start building. And so he's coming up here now to get his siege tank positioning. He starts hitting my Thor. I react a little bit late, lose a Thor there, and move them away. And because I don't have any scans, I have to guess when he's going to move these things and start moving up here to fight with. But he sees that and he starts hitting these guys again. And I have poor positioning, so I lose a lot of Thors here, which is okay. That's what I want. I want to be able to start working on battlecruiser production. And you can see I should just stop ground weapons and immediately start on ship weapons, but I decide not to for what reason I don't know, probably because I still have these guys here. But he does end up taking this base yet again. Nothing I can do here. Trying to squeeze out everything I can, and it dies. And at this point I should have had another base here, maybe even another base here. There should have been something hidden down here. I should have had something over here. I mean, he did walk his army through here, but having something here would have slowed them down and helped me to buy some more time with gathering minerals in my bank and then building up battlecruisers. So my army's supply is still just about on par with his. It's a little bit behind, but I do have. Yeah, now it's coming ahead because the battlecruiser's just now starting to get out. So I've got 3 of them here, and I'm taking advantage of the fact that I didn't touch his army. He has to throw away this army if he wants to be able to deal with battlecruisers effectively. He does have ravens to disrupt them and do that missile thing that deals damage. I'm throwing away the rest of my army here by hitting his production. and that's what drew his army away to buy me a little bit more time. And yeah, hitting what he's got up here. Not that it's doing all that much, but he is now behind in workers, and just on par with me on army. Our mineral income is kind of the same. My gas income is still ahead, and now that I have this many battle cruisers, he's actually in a lot of trouble now. He's got too many tanks, and he's also resupplying with tanks. He is coming out with like 1 or 2 Thors here, it looks like, or maybe there's a Thor on every, yeah. So 3 Thors. Probably gonna build another one here. But he has no idea. He has never seen a starport on the map. No idea what I've got going on, and that's really the problem with scanning. You know, I understand why you want to scan to see if there's bases here and scan to see if there's army, but you need to know. You need to know about the technology. You need to know what your opponent has. I know that he has siege tanks, and I know that he can't shoot the air with siege tanks. And I'm able to effectively resupply this because he's not harassing. He has no idea that I've got starports. Look, these guys are just hanging out doing diddly jack. You can see I'm like, oh shit, I really need to ramp up my resource income. So I build all of these at the same time. But yeah, so he has no idea about this. I've got the upgrades now because I've been working on the vehicle plating, and all I've got left now is the ship weapons. So I'm able to tech switch really easily. I had the factories that built these tech labs earlier. I can just throw down starports on top of them, and build these battle cruisers out quite effectively. So. Yeah, he's hitting me now with these siege tanks, and I'm like, okay, you want to do that? Let's bring out my 15? No, 13. Got 13 battle cruisers here. Let's reveal what we've got going on, and basically end the game for him. Or no, okay, yeah, there we go. Yeah, because I had a couple more coming out here. So we're going to hit this now where it hurts. Yamatoing every single one of those medivacs, and you can even see. Actually, let's pause that and sorry guys, just for a moment. So we're at 1855. Okay, let's zoom out here, right? Oh, I'm on pause. Let's play it. Yeah. So what's going on there? Oh, whoops, what am I doing? What's going on there is, if you've ever heard of mule dropping or mule hammering, I'm doing the same thing with my Yamato cannons. I've got them set to the same key. Oh, and there they go. I've got them set to the same key as mules, so E, because I'm not on grid. And basically, what I'd like to do is I'll take my Yamato and I'll scroll back across their units that I want to hit, and I wanted to hit those ravens, and then I'll Yamato all of them at the same time. It can sometimes be a little inefficient because I waste Yamatos, but I do also a lot of damage with them. So for me, it's worth it. Basically joining up now, I believe this is 15 battle cruisers, and he's like, well, shit, what do I do? He's got nothing to produce with. He's got these, but they're about to get erased. And so he's like in a desperate attempt to draw my attention away, which is definitely not going to happen. He sends these 4 medevacs out to deal with, look, he scans me over here, to deal with this expansion. Expecting to do what? I don't know. Squeeze out a little bit of damage. But I send 2 battle cruisers over to deal with this. Hit 2 medevacs because I don't want them healing. And then clean them up because I have the damage. And upon seeing that, he basically leaves the game because there's nothing that you can do against that. So, yeah. One of the things that I've learned is you need to be prepared. Vibes is all about production. So this is actually a little bit low for the amount of factories that I should have had, but my intention was always to go battle cruisers. So building up an army supply, which I had out pretty, I think pretty early. I think I was at 200 somewhere around maybe 12 minutes. Which, you know, I should be maxed at 10, but, you know, 2 minutes, whatever. So, I shouldn't say that. A lot can happen in 2 minutes. But anyway, so after having my full army supply, that's the moment that I need to start building extra production. But, you know, Vibe says to resupply your army with, you know, Thor's Hellbats. I believe that I can do the same thing with starports. And so, having an army already maxed and just waiting to attack allows you that time to build up production buildings. It allows you to deal with an oncoming army, and because your army is going to be especially against siege tanks, is not going to be sufficient at dealing with the enemy. Or, well, first let's take in the event that your army is not sufficient for dealing with the enemy. You're going to, because of the way that I've set it up, I'm going to have just enough time to squeeze out enough battle cruisers to, in the very least, base trade. If, however, you have built up an army that is sufficient at dealing with the enemy, you can use it to fight them off. And by the time they've resupplied their army, they're probably resupplying their army with the same units in order or with units that are to deal effectively with the unit composition that you have in that army. And that will drain them of their resources, and it will keep them with an army that cannot deal with your battle cruisers. Of course, you know, having said this now, this is obviously going to become the new Gold League meta. Just kidding. But yeah, if they don't have, especially if they don't have starports, this is a great way to go, because without Vikings and without Ravens, there is pretty much nothing that they can do to deal with this. Yeah, Thors shoot upwards and they do a ton of damage, but they are not as mobile. I can warp anywhere I want and get out of range of the enemy. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed. I will see you next time.